The Israelites have been slaves to the Moabites for more years than you are old, and they got tired of it. And so they began to talk to God and beg God to please make it okay and get them away from being slaves to the Moabites. Well, God chose a young man, and that's why all of you boys need to be careful that you're ready when God needs to use you. He chose a young man whose name was Ehud. Now, Ehud's a funny name, but he'd think Johnny was a funny name, so we're going to call him Ehud because that's his name. And he told Ehud that he wanted him to sharpen a sword on both sides, slick as a razor. Now, Boy Scouts know that a sword is only sharp on one side, but this knife was sharp on both sides, slick as a razor. And then he said, I want you to fix a present for the king. Now, the king's name was Eglon. That's a kind of a funny name too, but he'd probably think David was a silly name. So his name is Eglon. That's what we're going to call him. So he said, Ehud, I want you to take this present. I want you to take the knife. And Ehud was left-handed. So Ehud's going to stick the knife inside his coat on the right side. And when he goes to see the king, the soldiers are going to be looking for a sword on the left side, not on the right side. And so he said, now take the present to the king and then get rid of him. And tell all of the Israelites that when they hear you blow the trumpet out on the hill, they're to just grab the kids and the animals and run as fast and hard as they can run. No questions asked. Okay, Ehud was ready. He had his sharp knife. He stuck it in on the inside of his coat on the right side, and he had this present to give to King Eglon. And he went to see King Eglon, who was sitting in the palace, and he's sitting on his throne, and he's got dancing girls, and he's got soldiers, and there are people with big palm fronds waving so that he won't be hot, and there's dishes with nuts and grapes and things on them, and somebody doing flip-flops and entertaining the king. And Ehud comes in, and he goes up to King Eglon. Now, the scripture says King Eglon was a great big fat man. He could hardly get his hands around his stomach. And Ehud said, King Eglon, I have a present to give you. And Eglon said, oh, good, fellow. Come on, give me the present. And Ehud said, well, I also have a secret to tell you. Oh, boys think that only girls like secrets. That's not so. Boys like secrets too. And Eglon said, never mind the present. Tell me the secret. Tell me the secret. And Ehud looked all around the room, and he saw the dancing girls and the soldiers and the people waving palm fronds. And he said, I can't tell you a secret with all these people in the room. It won't be a secret any longer, King Eglon. And Eglon said, upright, out, out, out. Everybody, out, out. Well, Ehud went over to the door, and he closed it, and he locked it. And then he went over to big fat King Eglon. And he's going to have to lean way over his big fat stomach to whisper the secret in his ear. And as he leans over his big fat stomach, he slips his hand inside his coat and gets a hold of that knife that's sharp on both sides, and he stabbed the big old fat king, and it went all the way through and came out the back, and the king slumped over dead. Ehud went out the window, blew the trumpet. The Israelites are all running, grabbing their kids and their animals, and dust is flying in every direction. And the soldiers that are outside of the door, locked out, begin to worry about it. What should we do? We don't know what's all that dust. And one of them said, we better go in and find out if the king needs us. And one of the others said, if we go in there and he didn't want us, you know what'll happen. So they waited, and while they waited, Ehud and the Israelites are getting away. And finally, one of the soldiers said, we're going to have to break open that door. And when they broke open the door and walked in, there was King Eglon slumped over, dead over his big fat stomach. And the soldier said, well, we don't know what to do. Our leader is dead. And the Israelites got away. Now, it's a great example, kids, of the fact that we have to have leaders. Now, God is our leader. But he's given us all kinds of other leaders, too, that we need to listen to. We not only need to listen to our mother and dad, we need to listen to the Bible school teacher. And when she says she wants all of us to bow our heads and drop our chins on our chest and pray, then that's what you should be doing, not looking around the room. And when you go to school and the teacher says there's a paper, I want you to finish it, instead of sitting there dreaming about what you're going to do that afternoon, you need to follow your leader. God has given you counselors, and those are teachers, and he's given you mothers and daddies, and he's told you to honor them, and that means to obey with a smile. When we're little, we really need leaders. And so you follow the leaders that God's given you.